Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Allie. Welcome to my apartment in Colorado. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Allie Sutterer. I'm a content creator and interior decorator. Welcome to my apartment in Denver, Colorado. So we moved into this home in about 2022. At first glance, I was not so keen on it. Everything was painted this sad gray, but this was in our price range, in our neighborhood, which I love. The neighborhood has a lot of historic buildings, this being one of them. It was built in 1930. Whenever we rent, we're always looking for a historic place. I would much rather live with the quirks that come with an old building than have like a sterile, modern space. Nothing wrong with that. I think you can do a lot with those spaces, but for me personally, I love the detail that an older building gives you. I think it's such a fun way to then mix in modern pieces as well as antiques, and that's very much my style. This apartment has seen many iterations through the about 3 years that we've lived here. When we first moved in, I just wanted everything white. I wanted it to be a clean slate. And then over the course of a few years, I have really used this space as my canvas and experiment ground for finding my personal style. I feel that I've finally, in the past year or so, really landed on what I want the space to be. Now we've landed at a nice, modern, but traditional kind of funky mix. So it's definitely eclectic. All right, so here in our entryway, the first thing that I'll point out is this door was just plain when we moved in, and I knew I wanted to add just a little bit more character to the space. So we added these DIY moldings to the door. We just stuck them on with command strips, so they're easy to take off. And then this is where we come in, throw our keys down, sunglasses, what have you. This area has seen many iterations, but my favorite piece that we've had here is this solid onyx pedestal. I found this on Facebook Marketplace for $200. It is extremely heavy. It comes apart in 4 pieces. It used to have another piece like this up here, but the original owner told me that it broke during one of his moves, but he originally had it imported from Italy. I imagine it was much more expensive when he bought it, but I got it for $200. So pretty happy about that. I will hopefully never get rid of this. Some thrifted artwork. I think I thrifted the frame and then took a piece of art from a book and created that piece. This is actually a little tea light holder. I don't have a new tea light in there right now, but that kind of lights up as a lamp, and I always have fresh flowers here and then in another place in the living room, if not other rooms in the house at all times. I just get them from Trader Joe's and I have fun building a little floral arrangement. This is not my favorite one I've ever done, but it works for today. Or I had a brass mirror here before. It's like a polished brass, and I recently discovered that I don't really love that look, or I did at one point, and I've kind of evolved past that. So I'm more into these silver chrome elements, and so this frameless mirror in this more traditional shape was the perfect mix right here. So over here, as you can see, we hang our coats and bags. Usually this is just stocked full of coats. I live here with my husband and our dog, and so we've got lots of things hanging. This is another thrifted piece that I've had since we moved in, and it's hanging by one nail. And we pile this thing high with big puffer coats, wool coats. We live in Colorado. We have no idea how this is still hanging on the wall. It is a miracle. So knock on wood. I'm big on knocking on wood, that never falls. And then over here, this was a more recent addition, maybe this summer. I think I picked it up. Also Facebook Marketplace. It is a little bit more of a red tone than I'd like it to be, but I think it still works in this space. What I do love is that the dental trim up here really mimics the dental trim that I actually added to the bottom of the crown molding when we moved in. This whole room had crown molding, but I wanted to add a little more detail, so I just added chair railing that was like a foam, and it is mounted with mounting tape and caulk and painted and everything. So this I added, and then I loved how this mimicked the same design and pattern. This is a tension rod lamp, I believe it's called. That's what it looks like. From the mid-century, when I used to sell vintage furniture, a fellow vintage furniture seller in the area was selling this piece, and so I got that from her. I have a couple other pieces from her as well. Look what Jackie found. Great Instagram account if you're in the Denver area. This was thrifted at the Ark near my parents' house. The print actually came in the frame, and I just decided to keep it. It's like a torso. You'll see that I like body parts, which sounds kind of weird, but I just think that they're beautiful and funky. And so we have another hand right here. This is something I coveted for a while in a lot of my travels, like either in Europe or even in Mexico City. I would see these old Victorian door knockers, and I went on a Facebook Market trip to Colorado Springs, which is an hour and a half away. The person ended up bailing on me when I got down there. So I was supposed to pick up a larger piece of furniture, and they bailed, and I was frustrated. But I said, let's just go see what they have at the thrift store, see if we can make it worth it. And this is what I walked away with. It was small, but I had been wanting one of these. So I just have it here. I'm not gonna attach it to the door. It's super heavy, but a little leopard that I picked up in Mexico City. These are also little, I think, coconut shells that are carved. Again, the kind of face and body part theme. These are also from Mexico City. This was one piece that my husband actually contributed. It's petrified wood bookend. A lot of this apartment is my design and things that I've chosen, but I remember seeing these in his, I guess, bachelor pad bedroom, and that was one thing that I actually really did like. So we still have those. And this is just a stool that I found in a pair. The other one's in another room. I found these at a local estate sale. I found these before I had really come up with a color scheme for this space. And so these were partially the inspiration for the dining room paint color that you'll see in a second. And then closet, we're not gonna look in there because I don't want to give you nightmares. Just, I think adding a little tassel to a doorknob adds like a fun classic touch. And now in the kind of main living area, again, this room has seen many iterations throughout the years, but we have landed on a more modern but still traditional setup here. So I originally had a patterned Turkish rug, a vintage Turkish rug in this space, and I loved it. But after a while, I was craving a little bit more calm and simplicity. And so we recently got this rug from Rugs USA. It's just simple taupe, does not distract from the other elements in the space. And it's really soft and cushy on your feet. This is an inlay little box, little ceramic bananas. Again, things move around here. I actually forgot that I put this in here, probably as I was moving things around, but my best friend gave me these. I think she got them in Japan. I eat a banana every morning. It's my favorite fruit. So just a fun little thing from a friend. Over here, this chair was a battle, has been and still is a battle between me and my husband, originally I was the one who wanted it. He's a big reader and has back issues and sometimes works from home, and so he really is particular about the ergonomics and the comfortability of a chair. He needs a chair in our space to sit comfortably. And so this is not a real Eames, it's a knockoff, but it is vintage. Maybe it was built in the 70s, it seems. I have no idea, but originally I wanted to bring it in and replace a rocking chair that he had. He put up a fight and now he loves it. And now the tables have turned and I want something a little different in here, but he insists that this is his chair and he needs it. So maybe we'll get it reupholstered at some point. It's seen better days. And then this piece here is another Facebook Marketplace find that I believe you can still buy today. It's originally very expensive, but again, I think this was $200 for me. So that was great. I was skiing at the time that I found this, and sometimes you have to jump on it. So I was up in the mountains, but my sister was right near where this piece was, and I wanted to make sure that it was mine. So she was so gracious. Her and my brother-in-law went and picked it up and brought it over while we were out of town. So that's kind of a special memory there with that piece. And it was a little big for this space, but what I did was I just pulled the credenza forward and layered it behind, and I think that's a nice hack that you can do, layering art and furniture at the same time. This is our TV, and it's not a frame TV, it's just a plain old TV. I did make a DIY frame for it about a year ago, and I had fun with that project and I liked the look of it for a while, but I recently just decided to embrace the fact that we have a TV. We watch it every day. This bowl I found at an antique store near my parents' house. This piece of art is from the same vintage seller as the tension rod lamp that I showed you earlier. Since getting rid of the DIY frame, this wall is in flux a little bit, still needs some work. Things are always changing in this house, which keeps me busy and honestly keeps me happy. So if there's a project, that's kind of the way I like it. This piece is from my vintage selling days. I got a whole bedroom set in this style and we've loved it. It stores all kinds of things, home improvement tools and materials and dog toys and leashes and extra magazines, all that good stuff. This is a little drink table that floats around. I use this daily. I sit here in this window nook and put my coffee here. I will bring it up to the sofa like such, and that's my little spot right there. My husband sits right there, and although we have a large dining room, we usually, unfortunately, are right here watching TV, eating our dinner. So not the most glamorous, but that is daily life over here. So over in this corner, this is probably my favorite spot of the whole apartment. Because we don't have outdoor space in this unit, I wanted to try and get as close to a balcony or some sort of indoor-outdoor living. And so my solution for this was to create a nook as close to the window as possible so that, especially in the summertime, I can open these windows up and I'm as close to the outdoor as possible and catch that fresh breeze and look out the window. And so this piece was another lucky Facebook Marketplace find. It was, again, say it with me, $200. That seems to be the magic number for me. These are originally from Ballard Designs, and when I got them, the skirts were a little bit lower, and the velvet was a almost chartreuse lime green color. So I lived with that for a while. I never loved it that way, but I recently pulled the trigger and got them reupholstered in this mink gray, eggplanty faux mohair that's really high quality and durable, and then just went with a tonal chocolate velvet pillow to keep it really sleek and nice. We also raised these skirts a bit, again, to kind of just eliminate some of the visual detail that was there before. Behind the nook, you'll see this little, I don't know what to call it. It looks very spiritual. That was not necessarily the intention, but I think I like the idea of it feeling spiritual in a way. It's just a shell that I found thrifting. I went through a big phase of liking like little cherub characters, which sounds really weird. I really love like European architecture, and so I think that's where that comes from, but I found these thrifting. But I put my used matchsticks in there, and it's more so for convenience, I guess. I could just put them in the trash can, but I just end up collecting them here. And I do kind of like the idea of them being a symbol of time past and like accumulating memories. That's sort of the artist in me, I guess, conceptual artist in me, thinking of those things. So I don't know what you would call it, an altar? That sounds a little too intense, but that's that little vignette there. And then these are 2 pages curtains. They're really high quality and I love them. There were ugly blinds here before that we took out. And we just use these whenever we need to filter out the light. Over here is a vintage sort of Art Deco walnut cabinet I bought for our old carriage house that we lived in. And I knew that it was a piece that I wanted to carry through future homes when I bought it. And so I was determined to find a place for it in here, and it just sort of fit naturally, creating this vignette here in the corner of the living room. This mirror is a newer addition, again, vintage from Facebook Marketplace. I had another 70s more ornate. My style used to be a little bit more ornate, which I've kept some of that, but am leaning more towards simple, clean lines these days. So I switched out the more ornate one fairly recently to this beautiful vintage mirror. It's larger scale as well, which I think helps open up the small space that we have here. These are vintage iron, bronze, not sure, heavy metal candle holders. And I think I found these on eBay a while back. And when they arrived, it was at our old place. We had our neighbors taking care of our apartment, and the pokey little tails were sticking out of the box that it came in. And so I just will always remember when our neighbor sent us a picture of a little like snake tail hanging out of this box, and them thinking that I was super weird and insane, which that's partially true, but I just think that they're so fun and funky, and I love those. This is a bit of a chaotic corner, but we make it work. We don't have a ton of storage in this space, so we have this woven basket for extra blankets and linens and things of that nature. It also hides what is a sort of chaotic happening back here. I plan to eventually create a base for this vintage lamp, but because it's just not quite as tall as I'd like it to be, so we just have books piled under there, propping it up. So this sofa, you're not going to believe me when I say this, it was $200 on Facebook Marketplace. You can't make this stuff up. So it's an IKEA sofa. I did pay $200 for it. And it is a slipcover sofa. It's the Farlov sofa from IKEA, which unfortunately I believe is discontinued. Not sure why, because it's a great piece. It is slipcover, and in my opinion, I think that is really the only way to do a white sofa. I'm constantly cleaning this. Our dog is allowed on all furniture, we have no willpower, and so he takes over the whole space. And so yes, it gets dirty constantly. I'm constantly taking off the covers and washing it. But my philosophy is that I think you just have to have your priorities, and my priorities are having a comfortable, livable home that's also beautiful. So in that case, I have to put up with dog fur and stains on occasion. So nothing is too precious in here, but we love this sofa. I'm really drawn to bold, neutral patterns when it does come to pattern. Outside of that, I love color drenching and building tonal interiors, so different shades of the same sort of muted color. You'll see that throughout the home where I've chosen a main color and brought in different tones of that same color family. And I like kind of segmenting those colors within one space rather than dispersing lots of different colors throughout. I did not come into this space with a particular color story in mind. It sort of evolved as the years went on. I think it's really important to live with your space and live with some of the main pieces in it for a while, and that can spark ideas over time. Other pieces to bring into your space, paint colors, and how you want things to become cohesive. A tip for going about building your own personal style is to think about the things that you love and absolutely bring them into your home. The only thing that I would look out for is if you're blindly bringing things into your home that you love, but it's not feeling so cohesive, then try and find the through line with what you love and curate from there. Now we're stepping into the dining room, and as you can see, we have totally color drenched this room. The green kind of came about through trial and error. Originally this was painted white when we first moved in because we did that in all of the rooms. I originally thought that I had wanted a light dusty blue in here, and I just could not figure out the correct blue for this space. And so I started looking around at different furniture pieces, and like I mentioned before, this set of stools, which the other one is in the other room, inspired me to look into some dustier muted greens. And so this is Acanthus Green by Benjamin Moore. And for a while it was just the walls and the trim that were painted. And I knew eventually that I wanted to do the ceiling, but I just put off that project for a while. And it was going to be the same color as the walls, but I decided to play around with a tonal effect. So I ended up going with a darker green, just a shade darker on the ceiling. And all of the wall and ceiling paint is matte, and then the trim is a semi-gloss, which gives it kind of a nice contrast in terms of sheen. It brings down the light in this space quite a bit, but in a really nice, cozy way. For the floors, we decided the floors in this old apartment were renters, so we don't have too much control over. They have seen better days, I'm not gonna lie. So I wanted to cover the floors as much as possible and also just create like a cozier space. So we went with a sisal, and this room is almost a square. So we just went with a square sisal rug, and it's holding up great, and it's not too scratchy on the feet either. Here we have another archway and a little original character moment for this older building. This is where they would normally put a phone and then a phone book underneath here. But of course we just have cell phones these days. So I switch out the decor that is in this space. To be honest, I haven't fully figured out what I want to do with this space, but as you can see, I painted this little eye sculpture the same color as the walls just to kind of blend it in. That was another Marketplace find. This piece is by an artist named Noah Schneiderman. I believe that's how you say his last name. When I was trying to pursue art, I was part of a critique group here in Denver, and he was also part of this group. This was one of the pieces that he had brought to our critique meetings, and I just always loved it. And then he was selling some pieces for a pretty inexpensive price on his Instagram one day, and so I snatched this piece up. For a while I didn't know where it quite fit because it's this bright blue color, and I was wrestling with what was the color story in this home going to be, and does this fit? So it's kind of been on the walls and off the walls for a while, but I finally landed on it here. I think the pop of blue breaks up kind of the continuous color theme and makes the space feel a little more authentic and lived in. So if you're afraid to add a color that seems out of place, just try it and it might still work. It might make it feel a little more interesting. This was a piece that was made in 1994, which was the year I was born. I also grew up dancing, and so viscerally, like the leotard and everything is just like it's a very familiar feeling to me. And again, I love body parts. I don't know why, but I just think this is such a special piece. I put everything down when I found it on Marketplace, and I drove straight to where the person had it, and it looks like bronze, but it's actually fiberglass, and so it's fairly lightweight, and I think it was just a cast of someone because you can see the texture of the leotard and all the little wrinkles, and I love how realistic it is. So yeah, that's a very special find. This is an Asian room divider. I've always loved these pieces. I love room dividers. I think that whether or not you're trying to divide a space or not, I just think that they are a great textural, sculptural, three-dimensional piece of artwork. And so that's what we've used it here for, to fill out this corner and create some layers in dimension. These are the only two houseplants I have. I am not a green thumb. These are the only survivors. So they haven't grown much in 3 years, but they are still alive and they grow a little. We've propped them up a little bit. This is a really popular piece. I get so many questions about this piece, and when I was selling vintage furniture, that's when I picked this up. Everyone wanted to buy it off of me, but I refused, luckily. I had found one before and sold that, but then I told myself the second one I find is going to be mine. So this is a vintage 70s oak lamp. It originally comes with smoked glass orbs, which I love smoked glass, but I knew that I wanted a bit more of a cleaner look because with the smoked glass you could see the light bulb on the inside. And so I just picked these up. They happen to be the right size. They just sit right in there. These are from Home Depot, which is great because if any of these, knock on wood, were to break, I can pretty easily replace them. I think they're like $6, those orbs. So that's a great hack. Look for Home Depot or hardware parts that maybe you could switch out with vintage lighting. You might come up with something new and funky. This piece, Facebook Marketplace, I think it's like vintage 60s or 70s mirror art. Again, kind of continuing with this modern globe orb theme that I love. This piece is a bird's eye maple vintage cabinet, also found on Facebook Marketplace. The original owner said that it belonged to a ship captain, and it actually opens up to be a desk, but I'm not gonna give you nightmares, so we'll keep that closed. Over here, I used to have white curtains similar to the ones in the living room, but I have since switch them out to a more tonal look. These are just IKEA. I can't remember the name of them, but they've kind of been having a moment. I've been seeing other people get these exact curtains. They have some other colors, and they're pretty high quality for the price. And I got lucky. I had already painted this room, and this color just fit perfectly. It didn't need to match exactly. I kind of like that it's slightly off, but it really works in this space. This piece I'm super excited about. My dad and I created this last weekend. Because our radiators are inset in a weird way, it was difficult to find something off the shelf to cover them with. So it had to be custom, and my dad is an amateur woodworker, I would say, and subsequently so am I, because I've worked on these pieces with him. But this is, it was a labor of love and just a time to spend with my dad. I could have had it custom made by someone else, but I think it was a really fun, special project, and we're both really proud of it. So that is a DIY, but I wouldn't say it's an easy DIY, but you can do it yourself if you have the right tools. Over here is a cabinet, again, from Marketplace. Eventually I plan on doing a curtain behind here, but so that's a project to look forward to. But we just have more books, some knickknacks. I have some content creation items that are just, they're not exactly pretty, but they're handy to get to there. So I'll just leave them there. Up here is a photo of my parents. I just love this old photo. I found this when I was working on an art piece years ago using old family photos, and I've just always loved this, and I recently found it in a little keepsake box and brought it into this room and thought it looked beautiful. They are creative people in their own right and just goofy and curious and some of my favorite people, so I thought I should display that in this space. This box in here is special. I got this at an estate sale the day that my husband proposed to me. When I bought it, I had no idea that he was proposing later that day. So over here in the dining setup, our dining table is custom made, but not for this space. It's been here for a few years. We got it on, again, Facebook Marketplace in my selling days. It came with a pedestal that I sold because we didn't need that, but then I kept the table. It fit perfectly in this space. It is burl wood laminate, so not real burl on top, but what I like about that is that it's really not too precious. It was built in the 90s by the man that I bought it from, so I'm only its second owner. The chairs are brand new to me. Again, Marketplace. This is wild. It sounds like an ad for Marketplace. I didn't even know that I had this many pieces from them, but my dad picked them up for me because they were near his home. And then I recently recovered them in this leopard fabric. I've always been a fan of, again, bold, neutral patterns. I'm really stepping into what I've always enjoyed. I would wear snakeskin printed things and leopard printed things as a child, and so I feel like now in my 30s I'm kind of coming back into what I've always loved, and so that's what these chairs are for me. They only came in a set of 4. I typically have 6 chairs around this table because it definitely fits 6. But I am waiting for the perfect captain's chairs to find me. So again, design sometimes takes time, and that is an ongoing project, which I love to keep busy with these things. So I'm not too mad about that. Simple calla lilies in a glass vase, I think is so chic, and I don't think you can go wrong with that as a nice home floral arrangement. This piece up here is, I used to have a paper lantern. I love the oversized look, and I, about a year or two ago, switched it out to be a nice linen shade just adds more of a softness and I think feels a little bit more intentional than the paper shade. It's from Etsy and I get comments and questions about it all the time. It's a crowd pleaser. So yeah, the oversized look just again brings in more modernity to this space, which I love. I think what gives a home a soul is the little imperfections, whether that be through vintage furniture or not taking your things too seriously or not having things be too precious. I have a messy husband. I'm a little bit messy myself. A dog, and we have a white sofa and dark furniture. He has light fur. He's allowed on all the furniture pieces. We spill. We have vintage furniture that is imperfect. Our apartment has cracks and nicks everywhere, but I think that gives a space soul because it tells you that people live here and people have lived lives here even before us, which is what I love about an older home. I think the best compliment that someone could give me about my space is that it feels very unique to me. I have experimented a lot in this space and it's been a challenge to focus on what I like and what I want my space to look like, especially with all of the inspiration out there. It can be difficult to create a space that really feels your own. So the best compliment someone can give me is that it really feels like me. So moving on to our super tiny kitchen that I actually do love. This space, although it's tiny, it gets a lot of use. And what I love about it is that it's really sectioned off from the rest of the spaces. I'm not a huge fan of open concept, generally speaking. I like to come in here and cook and make a mess and then relax and not have to look at it until I then come back in and clean. And so this way, it being tucked away, you can kind of forget about it. But it's also really efficient because if it's just one person in here, you've got all this counter space surrounding you, and I love to cook and it does come in handy. Because we're in a rental, there's some quirky things about this kitchen. I would love to completely gut and renovate this kitchen, but it's not an option. So we have covered the countertops with a vinyl cover. Do not look closely at anything in this apartment because nothing's even, nothing's perfect. And so these have actually seen better days, and so I'll be recovering them with a slightly nicer vinyl. But for now it works. This is peel and stick backsplash tile. We left some of the original tile up on this shelf. These cabinets did not come with any doors for whatever reason, I don't know. But because I like open shelving, I decided to leave some space for displaying slightly prettier objects. Of course, we use this space, so it's still functional, but then we hide some of our more unsightly kitchen appliances and spices and all of those things behind these curtains, which we put up. And then, of course, more storage up top with the wicker baskets, baking supplies. I don't bake a lot, so things that we just don't use very often. This little photo is just hanging by command strips. I think it's nice to add a little framed piece of art in your kitchen to just make it feel a little bit more homey. This was actually a postcard that our friends sent to us when they were on a longer trip to France. Always have a table lamp on your kitchen counters. I think it just, again, makes it homier, makes it feel like a cozy space that you want to spend time in. These are, I found these on Home Depot, surprisingly, and they're inlaid salt and pepper shakers. Again, bold, neutral pattern. They're kind of funky. I just love them. We have some of our mugs here, which are mismatched, and even more back here. This changes all the time because we're using these items. We have even more glassware back here, some vintage ceramics, and of course, blue and white. I don't have them displayed right now, but whoop, I do have a few. I love funky, I love modern, but I do have some traditional bones in my body, and so I love blue and white. And I also have another blue and white plate here. I love a plate on the wall as well. And so I try to combine the traditional and the modern, and that's sort of the tension that I work within when I'm decorating a space. So over here we have some more signs of life. We have even more postcards and memories on the other side of the fridge as well. Of course, this is always changing as people send us stuff or we collect little moments from our lives. Magnets that are mostly food items from some of the countries that we've visited, old photos from specific points in our relationship, postcards that people send us, and so this is a living space in our kitchen. So I've always been interested in design as a child. I saw my mom decorate her home. We had a really good family friend that was into interior design as well. So I think it's been in my vicinity since I was young. I ended up going and studying art at CU Boulder. And then the pandemic hit and I decided, as a thing to do to pass the time, I decided to start selling vintage furniture on Instagram. So I created an Instagram account and kind of fell in love with creating content through that. I had to create content for people to see what I was selling. So that was how my original account started. I continued that for about 4 years, and in that time I also started working full-time as an interior stylist for a home staging company. I learned so much at that job, left that position after 2 years, kind of didn't really know where I wanted to go from there. I wanted something creative and remote so that I could just have flexibility in my days. So I thought that I would go into graphic design, but I, of course, ended up falling back onto interiors because that is just my true love. And so the universe brought me back to interiors. People from my vintage account kept requesting that I help them decorate their homes. And so I eventually gave in, and now I do mostly virtual, sometimes in person, interior decorating consulting. And it's something creative that I can do wherever I am typically, and content creation has made that possible as well. I'm able to work with people all over the country, even the world, helping them come up with a plan for their space. And it's really rewarding work and really fun, creative work. And now I'll show you our bathroom. So now we're in our bathroom. I have not done too much in this space. All we've really done was go in and paint the walls a similar yellow as our super cute vintage tile to see it go. And so I'm happy that our landlord has chosen to keep these tiles for now. They could be in better shape. This whole space could be in better shape. But again, it's old and has that original character. And so we just went with a sort of color drench with painting the walls yellow. We've lived with this for several years, and in this new year, I do plan on making a few changes, possibly adding some peel and stick wallpaper and potentially making it a little bit more of a moody space. So I'm really excited for that project. I'm not sure what I'll do yet, but the wheels are turning. So this space is cute and cozy for now. So now we're in our bedroom. This is a 1-bedroom apartment, so this is the only bedroom. Our initial iteration of this room was white. Again, we painted all the walls white when we moved in because they were gray everywhere. So it was white for a while until maybe a year or a year and a half ago. And I chose this dusty mauve color. It is Venetian Portico by Benjamin Moore. Luckily, the ceilings in here were this peachy tan color. So this actually worked out well. We didn't have to paint the ceilings in this space. It ended up being that color-drenched two-tone look that I like. So we went with the original ceilings. We switched out the light fixture. There was a ceiling fan that was broken and ugly, and so we switched it out for this Capiz style ceiling light and medallion. I just color matched the ceiling to paint that piece. And with the bedside lighting, again, it was getting pretty traditional in this space. It still is leaning more traditional, but I wanted to add a modern piece to break up the theme. And so these are just from H&M, and they happen to almost match perfectly the color of the wall. So I love that tonal and color drenching theme, even within walls and furniture items. You can kind of bring it outside of the walls and create some more dimension with 3D pieces. This is a Facebook Marketplace find. Surprise, surprise. I knew we needed something wide on each side of the bed to act as a nightstand as well as dressers. So we kind of have his and hers moments over here. They don't match completely, but they are similar in shape and size and tone of wood, and that works for me. I think, again, when things are just a little bit off, it can help make a space feel a little more authentic and less decorated, if that makes sense. So these are really functional pieces. This changes a lot of the time. I usually don't really have this space decorated very much just because it's so functional. Sometimes I'll have flowers here, but we have them on the other side today. And so yes, just jewelry storage, if I'm being honest, on a day-to-day basis, clothing, life stuff. It's usually not this pretty in here, but I made it pretty for you guys. And then over here on the bed, I just have a Target bedspread that's nice and textured. This was a recent DIY hack. I got the fabric from Folio Fabrics and covered what is just a Wayfair simple headboard that was very inexpensive. I covered it with nicer fabric to kind of create a custom look. And then we just have a bed skirt to finish off the bed. This pillow, I get a lot of questions about on social media. And unfortunately, I don't have a link. I don't have the name. It was Facebook Marketplace. It was not even local. I had it shipped here because you can actually find smaller items on Marketplace that are shippable. And so I think this came from Arizona. I think another interior designer had made this custom for a project and was getting rid of it for whatever reason, and it fits perfectly here. Again, bold neutral pattern, browns, kind of goes with the tonal feel of the space. And then to have a space really to put clothing on and other sorts of life junk, that was the function of this space, but today it's cleaned up. This bench was a Marketplace find, and I love leopard. This pillow was on our sofa at one point, but since I added the leopard to the chairs, I needed to take it away from that space, and who knows, it might live here for a while or not, but it's there right now. And then just some storage under there for extra clothing. Over here is a vintage mirror, more traditional. I love like a gold gilded mirror. Used to have another one in the living room, but now this is my only one in here. Great for checking your outfit. And then these pieces I got actually as a partnership with the Habitat for Humanity Restore in Denver here. We did a partnership together, and I found these at one of the locations in Denver, and they were a little bit banged up, and so I just kind of restored the frames as best I could. And I just love the matting on it. Feels really luxurious. They were really inexpensive, as you can imagine. And they're sort of like little playing cards with women on them. I don't really know the story behind them, but I think they go really nicely. Stacked right here. Our dog's bed that we've had for a while. The pattern was not intentional for this space, but I think it works. The rug in here is vintage. I got it for $50 on Facebook Marketplace. It's a vintage, traditional Persian maybe rug, and this is what inspired the mauve color for this space. We used to have it in our dining room. Was not feeling right, and then we brought it in here. It's really soft and plush, which is nice to stand on in the morning, and was the inspiration for going a lot warmer in this room. This piece was also a thrifted find. It could definitely be in better condition, but again, I'm not really super precious with most things, and so potentially we will refinish it one day, but right now it's over in this corner, and this is my husband's side. I actually rarely go over here, so it doesn't bother me too much that it's imperfect, but it came with these knobs that perfectly matched the room. We always argue, which I think people with partners can attest to this, about piling things on surfaces, and so we got this box for my husband, and he keeps things in it, and honestly I kind of need one too because there's just never enough storage. So that sits here. This is a little trinket that we picked up in Mexico City, and these curtains are just from Amazon, I believe, as well as the rods. They're super inexpensive, but we didn't really need anything that fancy in here. This is my husband's guitar. It's a little dusty because it doesn't get a ton of use, but he likes to tinker around on it. He's I think secretly talented with writing songs and singing, although it's just a hobby for him and he doesn't do it too much anymore. But this is here for him to use, and I don't mind it as a little piece of decor. The word home means a space to experiment and discover yourself. Like I said, this space has been a canvas for me to work with, and a space even for trial and error. And I'm very thankful that I have a place to discover myself in and express that through hosting the people that I love and bringing them into what I love. It was so great having you over, Homeworthy. A dream come true for me. But for now, I'll have to see you next time. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.